Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast, and it is 4 Wide Wednesday. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Corey Freedman, and man in patent leather Jays, Cody Delmendo. We already have our first super chat of the day from Ricky saying for $2, thanks for keeping the show going.
Always. 5 days a week.
Isn't that the truth?
Luke would do 7 a week if he could.
If I could.
If you,
Yeah.
But
FCC
FCC rules do not allow that.
Yeah.
I, too, would do 7 days a week if I were allowed to.
I
Big
would
of
not.
me. Credit to me.
Credit to
You
Cody.
can have all
I would
7.
not.
Credit to me. Well, when I say if I could, it implies the fact that I would get paid more.
Oh, well, that,
Yeah.
If.
But I won't, so I won't. You know what I mean? Big of me, though, whenever I sometimes jump on Corey and Brennan's show on Sundays.
For
during
free.
the
We
season.
we pay Cody under the table.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's extra, yeah.
They pay me in
Oh, shoot, I should
In
have.
Vibes and
Vibes.
Sunnyside.
in Vibes and Sunnyside, and sometimes a little Goose Island, and yeah, there's other stuff.
You got one of those special Oli Pops over there today, too,
Yeah,
huh?
one of our new partners.
Very nice.
The strawberry vanilla. That's
your favorite
That's
so
my
far?
favorite one so far. Go get yours. What, you use code CHGO 10% off?
Yeah.
I haven't read an ad yet. I'm not exactly sure.
Sounds right.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a
No.
good story.
So make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page so you don't miss any of the live shows. Best way to do it, we're live Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday, Corey and Brendan have a show that is taped and then broadcast at 1:20. So
So it's not live.
it is not live,
Barb,
but we are
if
here
you're
5
listening.
days a week.
Yes. We are here 5 days a week.
Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to continue the report cards. Now we're going on to the individual grades. Cody and I, the last 2 days, gave grades to the offense as a whole and the pitching staff as a whole. We were kind of flipped on the grades, but generally B, C type range, okay? Today we have the new news that came out that 3 of the Cubs are finalists for Gold Glove Awards. Ian Happ again. Dansby and Nico. Not surprised. I'm a little surprised by Happ, to be honest. I'm a little surprised.
I think it's more of like
You were the guy last year?
No, well, not even just that. I mean, but like you look at, I think the left field candidates for
Right.
that award weren't very great. But I mean, Hap, I guess in relative terms to like the guys he was competing with, probably deserved the finalist.
Sure,
but
because you don't have to be a great defensively to be in left field.
I don't think he looked really good in left field last year, 2022, 2023. Just didn't, he made some mistakes, errors obviously, and just overall didn't look as good as he did the year prior.
He didn't look as comfortable, I don't think,
know.
right? Was that it? Like, I know he made errors, but like it just seemed like he wasn't as comfortable out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is
if we,
weird.
for the conversation we're having, like, I wouldn't be giving him a Gold Glove for the performance, right? Like, it wasn't.
If we were grading him today.
Yeah, but I think, the left field crop is usually pretty weak.
Yeah,
So I think if you show up, you can get in there. So
A lot of people come
Big
up
of
in the
him to
chat.
show up then.
Yeah, credit to
listen,
him.
hey,
Credit to him
that's
for
half
showing
the
up.
job, right? Isn't that an old
It's showing up
saying,
to
right?
play.
Half the job
Yeah.
is just showing up.
The best
So,
availability or best ability is availability.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know who's available? Kyle Schwarber and the Diamondbacks know it. You've been as
Already?
He promised he wasn't going to talk about
as
it
my
again.
friend Doug
Already?
Glanville says, hello, good morning, Diamondbacks. You've been Schwarber'd. You've been Schwarber'd. Now tied with Reggie Jackson, most postseason home runs for a left-handed hitter. I just want to point out one. We're not going to hammer this all day because
like you
Cody
wanna
and I
hammer
have
it
done
all
it the
day.
last. Well, we've done it the last 2 days. The fact that it makes us nauseous that we're watching these guys that either could have been Cubs, were Cubs, or could be Cubs, all dominate the postseason right now. Schwarber, 2 more homers last night, starts off the game again with how many times can this guy just be an unbelievable vibe? And I heard Jessica Mendoza on the radio coming in today, and she made an interesting point that I hadn't really thought about, but she's 100% right. She's like, Bryce Harper is the face of that franchise. But if you want to know who the heartbeat of that franchise is, make no mistake, it is Kyle Schwarber. And I don't have to know that because I've ever been in the Phillies clubhouse this year or last year or the year before. I know that because it's also true of the Cubs when he was here. Heartbeat of the team. He's the Joakim Noah of the team, okay? He's not the captain of the team. He's not your Rizzo. He's not the veteran guy. He's not your Jason Hayward that people looked up to. He's not your Ian Happ on this team. He is the guy that leads by example, and people, there are rare people in sports when they walk into a room and you go, damn, we're going to be okay. This guy is here. Now, that doesn't mean Schwarber doesn't strike out a lot, right? It's or have a low batting average or all those things. I can just tell you that one of the few times in 2016 where I thought to myself as a reporter, they're going to win the World Series. The first time I ever thought that was when Schwarber walked out of that clubhouse and up the steps in Cleveland, and I was like, it's like it felt like Babe Ruth was walking out. Not because of what he had done on the field yet. He just has this way of
aura.
Yeah, he's got this blue collar aura and confidence around him, and then he provides home runs like that, where you're just like, man, this guy's got it. He's not a Hall of Fame player, but damn, if you can't count on him in big moments.
I think if Ryan and I can offer a thought, because I know Cody has expounded on his.
Do I
right?
need to offer it?
I don't.
Everyone knows how I feel.
Up to you, right? But
I don't really want to. I'm sick.
I would say that I think, obviously I do agree with you, Luke. And, going back to the Cubs run, like I remember, I think that the John Morosi tweet that Kyle was getting on the private jet to Cleveland is
chills.
I think that's the best, Chicago sports tweet potentially of all time.
Because I'm back was a fax.
That was a fax, and I'm not talking about the Chicago Cubs have won the World Series. Not that stuff. News reports, things like that. I think that tweet, I remember reading that, and being in my apartment and reading that, and kind of like you and being like, oh my god, this is happening.
He's not letting them
he's gone. So, and he, he's an interesting case, right? Because he's one of those guys that a lot of Cubs fans, and I'm just speaking to Cubs fans because that's the fan base I'm a part of, that's who we're talking to, etc. During the regular season, they would hate him. They would be in the YouTube chat freaking out about how he's hitting 190. He's in a stretch where he's striking out 4 times a game, whatever.
Absolutely.
He's a very interesting player in that he doesn't hit for average. He's not a good fielder and shouldn't be in the field, right? Not a particularly good base runner, but the dude just hits tanks. And you see it in these few playoffs with the Phillies. You saw it when he was with the Red Sox. And he didn't, he wasn't launching homers for the Cubs in 16, but you saw the impact of that bat. You need those guys in the playoffs, right? You're often going up against a team's best pitchers. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly have been very good. Sometimes it's difficult to string together 3 base hits in a row and get a crooked number just by good at bats and patience and all that other stuff. Sometimes you need somebody to go up there and just sock one, right? And he has proven time and time again, back from when he took Garrett Cole to the Allegheny, right, that he is that dude in those moments. So, I personally, this many years later, I don't have the energy to relitigate the decision. You sent that tweet that he was asked about it, right?
We have the tweet, right, Sarah?
From Jesse Rogers.
Even Kyle knows, right? 2020 was an awful year. I don't make any excuses. Obviously, the Cubs made a horrible decision, right? They based a decision off of a COVID weird season, and they didn't get anything for him. There's no defending that decision. I don't care which angle you're coming from.
Especially that part of the decision,
but as far as relitigating it, it's he's been gone for a while. I don't have the energy for it, but he is a fascinating player because he's one of those guys where over the course of the regular season, people will debate his like overall value. But once you get into October and you need somebody to spark an offense, like he's just proven time and time again, he's as reliable as they come in that regard.
Yeah, can we pull out a tweet up real quick and say, there you go. So this is from Jesse Rogers, ESPN. Schwarber was asked about leaving the Cubs after 2020 yesterday. Obviously, it is what it is. I'll never make an excuse after that season in 2020. Yeah, I mean, I didn't perform at all. I just knew that wasn't a representation of myself. So it's kind of, I think when we talked about it maybe last week, like that season or the decision to non-tender him, which, yeah, like it was a mistake. Obviously, it was a mistake at the time, especially when you talk about like it was probably made under like financial decisions and
Right.
more than anything. But it did serve as a little bit of like a wake up for him. Like he was bad in 2020 and 60 game seasons, whatever. Like it's not 162, right? But it did wake him up a little bit in terms of like he has to be better because he doesn't want that to be the image of himself as a baseball player, as a Major League Baseball player. And obviously he's done great things since then. And kind of like what you were saying, Corey, he's a fascinating player because like he has flaws in his game that over 162 games they show. Yeah. And that's why, you know, like his wins above replacement isn't so high because, like you said, he's not a great defender or base runner, all that stuff. But when you get into a postseason where you only have a certain number of games and you just got to win a few of them, like a guy with that kind of confidence who thrives in the moment and hits tanks, as you said, like if he can get hot at the right moment going into the playoffs, that can carry him through however many games he has to play to win a World Series, right? 162 games is a lot longer, and that's when you go through your, you know, the ebbs and the flows, the ups and the downs, and the flaws are they show at some point. In a postseason, a smaller sample, a guy like Kyle Schwarber, obviously he's shown it. He can absolutely thrive in that moment, and that's kind of who he is. That's why he's such like an interesting, fascinating player.
Well, and there's something too, like obviously, you know, like it's tough to control, but there's obviously something to like the other night when he started the game, hitting the first pitch out there. It creates it's like a snowball, exactly. And like you think about even like against the Cardinals for the Cubs in 15, like hitting one on the scoreboard, like being able to have those moments that get everybody in the ballpark like, whoa, right? Like that there's a momentum to it that, you know, you certainly feel in the crowd. You felt it at Wrigley, you felt it in Boston.
It's like
and
when
you
Cody
feel it
walks
in Philly,
in with
right?
new Jordans, right?
Yeah.
He walks in and we're like, get on his back.
It electrifies.
Get on Delmendo's
the
back.
team.
He's got new
yeah,
Jays.
Absolutely. So
one might say,
you know, it's not these playoffs are not the, as I'm sure, you know, Cody has said, and I know he's tweeted and stuff, like they're not pleasant, right? Because watching the Phillies, it is a reminder of like there's just a lot of players on that team that could have bridged that gap from the core to whatever, you know, wherever we are now, right? And it would have looked really good, and all it cost them was money, right?
And you know what makes it worse, though, Corey?
Tell me.
Is that I like watching them play.
I do, too.
I wish I didn't. I wish I hated them like I hate the Cardinals. Then at least I'd be having a nice, normal, like regularly scheduled hate watch. Instead, I'm sitting there cheering them on,
Singing along.
and singing along to Dancing on My Own, and then having to watch Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper just hit tanks and watch that crowd go wild. And I'm like, we have missed this at Wrigley for way too long, dude.
Yep.
Way too fucking long, bro. Way too long. We are not the Cincinnati Reds. We are the Chicago Cubs, man. We are the Chicago Cubs. We shouldn't.
The Cincinnati Reds who did pay
But the
Nicholas
East Coast
Castellanos.
Cubs are fun to watch.
No, listen, where the Cubs are at now, like where the roster is now, like I am excited about the future. It's just hard to feel to move on to next year here in October when you get to watch these guys do what they're doing. When A, the Cubs shit their pants in September, and B, watching former Cubs who, you know, you can argue were former Cubs and guys who should have been Cubs. Watch them have success in the postseason, and it just leaves you wondering, what if? I feel like I'm watching, the Bulls in the early 2010s all over again. Like, what if Derrick Rose doesn't get hurt? You know what I mean? Like, what if the Bears fucking found a quarterback? Like, that's all these teams do to me in the city. What if? What fucking if?
Well,
and it just makes me freaking
save him for Foul Mouth Friday
Well,
show.
and I would add too, like one thing I would say too about Kyle in particular, and Castellanos to a degree, because Castellanos was bad in the regular season last year, right? He's not. I feel like him and Kyle are in like two different conversations as far as like letting them go or not. You know what I mean? But with Kyle in particular, like he is a good lesson in like as we figure out how the Cubs are going to build this next roster, like you have to have the space for that, right? You have to build a lineup and, a 1 through 9 that supports a guy that is going to hit 190 but hit 50 homers, right? Like, and not every lineup is supported for that. They're not the same guy, so don't take it this way. But like when the Cubs offense was struggling, people get frustrated with someone like Patrick Wisdom, who has a similar makeup. Again, not an exact comparison.
I wouldn't
Please
have
don't
Wisdom
accuse
lead
me of
off
that.
in a postseason game.
But it's like the Phillies have a deep lineup. They have a different variety of hitters, and they have other guys that lead that offense throughout the season, right? So that you can support, hey, like, we don't care if he hits 190 because we need these 50 homers, and we have the space for it with the way we built out this lineup.
And he's always had a great play approach, so he does walk. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Wisdom doesn't walk a lot. So,
yeah, he talked about that too, about how much he's embraced the whole leadoff thing and how he loves it, and he loves the opportunity to turn that stadium on fire with the first at bat of the game.
yeah.
Well, and I mean, the last, I mean, I don't know, we could talk about this for 4 hours, but oh no, we have a hard out today.
Hard out.
But the last
50
thing I would
minutes.
say, because it's just part of my brand, I guess, the one thing that's very important to remember is that Kyle has won a World Series as a member of the Chicago Cubs. He has not won a World Series as a member of any other organization, at least as of this moment.
Right.
So
That's
I
true.
think it might
do
be
with that
coming.
information what
Do
you
people
will.
forget that?
A lot of people do forget that,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's like last year I cheered for the Astros in the World Series because I didn't want to see Schwarber win and one with another team. But I don't know, man. I mean, maybe if it's Phillies Rangers, maybe I can root for the Rangers. I don't know. I like the vibe. I like the
Ranger,
vibe.
He doesn't
And
sound like a company man to
and
me.
it makes me sick.
I'm a Philly guy.
He doesn't sound like a company man.
Makes me a little nauseous, but
Don't tell me I'm not a company
Our
man.
all-city people.
I have been giving I've been giving more support for the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
You
over
said
the
you're gonna
last
root
2
for the
weeks.
Rangers.
I said maybe.
Yeah, he's
I don't
contemplating it.
want I don't want to. My heart wants to root for the Phillies, but then the other part of my heart doesn't because it's like painful. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not.
He's,
gonna
I
do
think
any
he's
more.
waiting for TXAS
I think it
to
does.
open up.
I do think it makes a good deal of sense, right? There's something about like Nicholas Castellanos winning a World Series as a Philly, and then they'll get a video of him trying to climb one of those greased up street poles with no shirt on, probably no clothes on.
right.
And there's
The
something
goggles.
about that like you just, even as a Cubs fan,
brother will be
have
on
to
Twitter
identify
talking about it. Yeah.
as saying like, you know what, that just feels right. And I don't have a problem with that.
By the way, Chris in the chat is asking what he should eat for lunch. I'll tell you what he should eat. Jarge Bakery's chocolate chip coffee cake, which I kindly brought in honor of my wedding anniversary, which is today,
Ooh,
because I'm a giver.
anniversary.
I'm a giver at all times. Look
we're
at that
all
beauty.
celebrating.
Look at that beauty, huh? 8 years of wedded bliss, huh? How about
Amazing.
that?
Fantastic.
How many years has it been?
Congratulations.
8 years.
8 years?
Can you believe she's put up with me for 8 years?
8 years. Wow.
You guys are
Big
at a
of
year
her.
and a half, and you're like, I don't know if we can do another
Credit.
year.
That's out
Credit
of
to
my former
Kate.
home.
Yep, credit to Kate for
That's
that
out
one.
of my former home of Elk Grove Village, Illinois. Go get it.
There, you're
right
right.
off Higgins and Arlington Heights.
Higgins and Arlington Heights
Credit
Road.
to Kate, who might watch this show a lot, who deals with me all the time.
She might not watch as much as you think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going based off all the times you show us of your son watching
You're right.
the show.
Yeah.
She does watch sometimes.
She just has to mute when you start talking, just in case like a curse word comes out.
Yeah.
She was aware that Schwarber hit a home run last night.
Yeah. She's like, oh, I can't watch today, or can't let him watch today. Cody's gonna go off.
Yeah, that's right. The foul language. I should have warned her it was coming today.
I'll tweet the Bart Simpson thing tomorrow. Well, hopefully, I don't do this again.
Hey, are you guys in the market for a new or used vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you because Ray Chevy in Fox Lake has just joined the CHGO team, and we're talking to the team at Ray, and they gave us this pledge called the Ray Price Promise. It's a guarantee that the price you see online is the price you pay when you go into the dealership. Now, we've found in many other cases, other dealers are going to try and raise the price on you when you go into the dealership, saying things like, hey, are you a recent college grad? Are you active in the military? Are you a farmer by any chance? Most cases, the answer is no. And that's when the other dealers try to raise the price on you, saying the price online included limited rebates that you don't qualify for. Well, at Ray, that is not the case. The price you see online is the price you pay with no add-ons to the price ever. In fact, Ray will do everything possible to find additional savings for you, which might make that price even lower than what you see online. As one of the top-selling dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. And right now, you can save big at Ray Chevy during their Truck or Treat savings event because it's 0% is back and now available on new Silverado trucks, the perfect tailgate vehicle. So come on in to Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake and find the vehicle you've been searching for. Best of all, pay zero hidden fees with the Ray Price Promise. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. Serving the community since 1963. Find new roads. And you guys are wondering, what did I get Kate for an anniversary gift?
What did you get her?
Well, I thought about picking up a Jarish coffee cake. Instead, I brought that to you guys. That was nice of me. Credit to me. What am I getting her? Charlie the Bacon Guy is based out of Woodridge, Illinois, and he makes terrific craft bacon and bacon jams in over 30 different flavors. Hey, baby, what do you think about this bacon jam? Bacon and bacon jams, all naturally cured, fancy preservative-free products that are, oh, man, I got to tell you, Charlie is just the man. You think he's a bacon man? Vacuum sealed, freezes great. Bacon lasts in a package up to 45 days in the fridge, 6 months in the freezer. The jam lasts 60 days in the fridge, but at our house, it lasts 20 seconds because we put the bacon jam on crackers. We put the bacon jam in our omelets. We put the bacon jam on toast. We put the bacon jam on a spoon. Charlie the Bacon Guy. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram. I'm just telling you, if you don't think that's going to be the gift that she's going to want tonight, the bacon jam, that's what she wants.
That's
the
definitely
bacon jam.
what she wants.
Every woman says to herself, listen, if I could get something for my anniversary, maybe it's a fancy dress, maybe it's some new fancy shoes, maybe he'll get me a Lexus, a sport utility vehicle. No. They're all thinking in the back of their head, bacon jam.
Absolutely.
If this man would just get me some dang bacon jam for the anniversary. So that's what I'm doing.
Big of you.
Hope I didn't give anything away. But that bright, shiny box that I'm bringing home tonight is full of bacon jam.
That was a moment.
Are you ready for grades?
Yeah.
You ready to grade somebody? We should start at the top.
A+ for the ad reads.
Yeah.
A+? Oh, thank
A+.
you. I don't know if you guys heard, though. Cody and I have discussed that we think we are leaning towards a 5-star scale and now starting to also grade the YouTube chat.
The chat,
people.
yeah, I saw. Yeah.
Grading the chat. I don't think
Which is
we're going to
big
do
of
it today.
us.
I thought maybe we saved that for tomorrow, but
Well, I think a lot of people are here for that.
They are, but we're on a hard out tonight.
That's true.
Hard
So
out today.
hard out. So,
true.
all right, let's grade Justin Steele. 16-5 on the season. 28-year-old now ace of the Cubs. We went into the season and weren't sure exactly what type of start he was going to be. Right? I think we all thought, hey, Justin Steele, he looks like a good number. I think he's developed into a good number 3. Maybe if we're lucky, he's a good number 2. All of a sudden, he's in the Cy Young race. So for me, the grade was simple, and it looks like across the board, we're all thinking the same thing. I don't know that did we give out any? I don't think I gave out an A last year.
I might have given an A.
I don't think I gave any individual player an A.
I don't think you did. I don't think you did.
I might
Because I'm
have. I
cranky
might
and
have
old.
given an A to Nico last year.
Yeah, maybe Nico,
yeah,
if anyone.
I think that would have been one.
See,
of them.
and I probably would have said not enough home runs, still room for improvement, got to win the Gold Glove.
Yeah, I don't think you gave any A's out.
I don't either.
No.
This might be my first A.
Big of you.
Well, I mean, he totally exceeded every expectation, did he not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think like if you're giving him an A+, right? Like that would mean that's his peak, right? Like there's no like he did everything possible and was
Won
as
the
good as
Cy
he could
Young.
possibly
Yeah.
be.
Didn't
It's
struggle
not
in
even
September.
that. Not even not winning the Cy Young is why. That's not the reason I gave him an A. I just think like there is still room for improvement. I think he can still be a better pitcher than he was this year, as awesome as he was. I mean, he's a guy that, you know, he really dominates with 2 pitches, right? And I know the fastball he can play with the shaping and stuff to make it just kind of
Seem like more than 2.
different, to go different ways, and but it's still like fastball, slider. That's how he dominates. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, if he could develop a true third pitch, this offseason, like I wonder how that could, like if that could get him up another level in that sense. Just because, like, again, it's 2 pitches, and if he can carve out a great career with 2 pitches, like that's an outstanding job. But like if you have another pitch that, because he like 90-something% of his pitches were either fastball or slider this year. If he can develop a pitch that he can throw consistently with confidence that can get outs the way he does, like that takes him to a whole nother level in my opinion, because now obviously there's a third pitch that hitters have to account for and be looking out for. So I think, and yeah, it's not an A+, not because he won or didn't win the Cy Young or he had a couple bad starts at the end of the season. I just think to give him an A+ means that he could do no better. And I think there's still more in there for him to improve on. He's been a late bloomer, right? He's 28. Like, he's a little on the later side of like this breakout, but like it's still pretty young, and I think there's still enough time for him to really, just to improve on what he's been able to do and be an even better pitcher than he was this year. I think he's got it in him.
I got a question for Cody. Because he is 28 and a late bloomer, do you have any less confidence that he can repeat it again next year? You know what I'm saying? Like, does that give you any tiny bit of hesitation to just say he's going to do it again next year? I think most pitchers, if they started to get better and better and better and they hit that point, you'd say, oh, they're definitely doing it next year. But because he's 28 and we don't have that season before, do you have any hesitation to say that it's definitely coming again next year?
No, I mean, I don't know if he can. I don't know if we'll be sitting here in October next year thinking that Steele is the ace of the staff, but I do think he's a top 2 of your rotation guy. You know, we've talked about how we think the Cubs need to get a high-end starter or something like that in the offseason, but based off the expectations and everything, he definitely surmounted them. Coming into the year, you saw what he did in the second half of 2022, and you're hoping he would build on it, and he didn't have a letdown. His probably is, I see the Godfather, criticizing us for giving an A because
he's giving Steele a B.
Because he's giving Steele a B.
Good old Godfather. Because
they didn't make the playoffs, and I understand in some aspects that thinking, but when you're talking about individually, like he is the reason. He is a massive percentage of why they were even in the playoff hunt to begin with. And that's why, to me, he gets an A. Yeah, there's certain things that, I hope he can improve on and become even better than what he already is, like Ryan said. I think the defense behind him helped him a lot, but you could say that about every Cubs pitcher. And you could say that about any pitcher you put on this team based off the defense that they have right now. But what I loved about Steele the most this year, and this was up until the very end of September, anytime they needed a big start out of him, he went out there and gave them quality innings and, helped save the bullpen in certain stretches of the season. And to me, I don't have a reason to not think that won't happen again next year. So, again, I don't think long term he's like your ace of the staff, gonna be in the Cy Young race every year. But you developed a homegrown pitcher, something that you got criticized about for years and years and years. And not only did you develop him and him become, serviceable, but he was your best pitcher all season.
Oh, yeah.
And so, from an individual standpoint, he deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and he was healthy for pretty much. He had one stint on the IL, I think, for the minimum days.
For that forearm, right?
Where it's like last year he didn't pitch the last month of the season. I think it was like a lower back issue. And his goal was to get through the season and get 180 innings and all that. Didn't quite get to. I think he ended up with like 173, something like that. Didn't quite get there, but he could have. And he was just, for the most part, healthy the entire season. I think that's huge to show that like he can, like his body is handling the 162 games, 30-plus start season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, yeah. So I see the Godfather, saying A means no improvement needed. That's not how I necessarily looked at it. I have an A for Steele because he was able to answer the question. He pitched at a Cy Young level for about half the season in 2022, right? And he answered the question of whether he could carry that over. He did, right? So I think him being able to do that, I mean, almost any metric you look at, right? He was just shy of that, like, kind of 180 innings threshold that, you know, people like to look at for starters and stuff. And I think him being able to continue on what he did in 2022 and basically be the favorite for the Cy Young, him and Blake Snell, like up until the
last couple weeks,
middle of September,
to Arizona,
right? Like,
right?
yeah, like I think that gets him an A because he was able to continue and build upon what he had done the year before. And as you said, Luke, he's doing this as someone who is on the slightly older side for somebody having this type of like breakout. So if there was any question, I think it would be to your question about that, like, can he continue to develop? Can he continue to like make adjustments if they become necessary, right? As
Was
someone,
this the ceiling?
Yeah, and
In a way,
you know, to
yeah.
me, like great, right?
saying.
Like he had a 3.06 ERA, and that's with a few bad starts toward the end of the year. It was sub 3 basically the entire season. He was almost a 5-WAR starting pitcher. Whatever metric you want to look at, right? Like some of the basic ones, the more advanced ones, he was really, really good. And even if you're looking like his FIP, his fielding independent pitching, was right in line with his ERA. So, like, there wasn't even a lot of, like, oh, he was getting lucky or the defense, you know, was the only reason. Like, his numbers looked like what they should be, even if you're digging into them. So I think that's where I give him the A. Again, if A+ was the only threshold that he was trying to attain that he didn't get, it's what Ryan said. And that's the question about him. Can he go over that 180 inning mark? Can he avoid he didn't break down at the end of the year. The starts weren't that bad. That's too strong a word. But he wasn't as good in those last few starts as he was throughout the season. And obviously with hopefully heightened expectations in 2024, you're going to need that to not happen, right? And now that can also be on maybe the coaching. You know, maybe you space out some of the starts over the course of the season. You don't ride him as much early in the year. You do have to prepare for that, right? But that would be the only area. Like, other than that, you're taking a starting pitcher who gave you 30 starts, sub 3 ERA for most of them, barely over 3 by the end of the year, almost 5 wins above replacement. Like, well, what more do you want, right? Like, when I look at this team, I do believe they need another top of the rotation arm. When you look at how these playoffs go, like, we talk so much about the Phillies offense, but Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are, 1A, 1B, the reasons that they're in this situation, right? Like, so right now I don't feel like the Cubs have that. I think Steele could be one of those guys. But I think when you look around, I don't think that they have that. And the thing with Steele, I believe in Justin Steele, right? I believe he can be this guy. Mm-hmm. He has not proven it, right? He hasn't pitched in the playoffs, and that's not his fault, right? But like, when we're looking at, like, okay, do the Cubs have a Nola, a Wheeler? Do they have a rotation like they did in 2016? No, right? Like, who is going to be those guys that can just anchor this team in the playoffs, even if they can't score any runs, right? I think Steele can be one of those guys, but he hasn't had a chance to prove it. I do not think anybody else currently on the team is that guy. Kyle Hendricks is amazing in the postseason, but expecting that of him as he continues to get older over and over and over again just feels risky. Could he do it? Would I trust him to? Of course. He's Kyle Hendricks, right? But as constructed, I think they need one more person that you would look at and say, we're throwing this guy in game 1 of a wild card series or whatever it is, because he's going to go out there and win this game.
I won't ask Corey this because it's against his beliefs. Could he be their John Lester moving forward? Okay,
I think that's very much in line with my belief.
I say that because, as Corey was just talking about, you still had Arrieta, you had Hendricks at his peak, right? And then you had Lester. Okay, so you need 3 guys. Maybe Stroman's that guy for 1 year. I don't know. But I believe they'll need 2 pitchers moving forward. So whether that's Yamamoto, maybe it's Aaron Nola, who's had 3 terrific posts. He's making cash hand over fist this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's with the Phillies or the Cubs. But could he be that guy that's the veteran guy, the veteran left-hander on a team that wins the World Series, and you could say he's their 1, you could say he's their 2, you could even say he's their 3, depending on how he's pitching at that time. But could you see him being that guy? A John Lester type?
I mean, I can see it. I can see. I know he has the mentality, and he's not like he's not an overpowering velocity type pitch. Like, I think he's a little more like John Lester as a pitcher than unlike him in terms of like how they kind of do things. But I mean, and that also goes to your original question is like, do you believe he can do it again next year? And for me, I do believe so, but it also like ultimately doesn't matter it doesn't matter what I believe because he has to go out and do it. And it's something that David Ross kind of talked about towards the end of the season, paraphrasing, of course, that just like kind of what you did the season before doesn't matter when the next season starts, right? Like if you want to be a great pitcher like a John Lester, like you have to go out and do it again. And then that season ends and you go out and do it again. And then you go and do it again and do it again. And that's how you build a great career. You're not a great pitcher just because you did it one time. You have to go out and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. So while I think like Justin Steele can be a really good pitcher for this team and one of those guys a la John Lester they count on in a postseason game that they feel very comfortable and very confident with him on the mound, like he has to be the one to go out and do it. And that's he's 28, a little bit of a late bloomer, but like I don't think like he's not built on like velocity or any of that stuff. So like the stuff he does can translate a little longer as far as like he's not going to be losing velocity later on in his career because that's not like the biggest part of his game. But I think it just all comes down to how can he improve on what he did this year, but how can he just keep going and doing it every year? Because that's how you become a great pitcher. Is not based on 1 year. It's based on what you do over a long career and how you obviously help a team win.
Well, so I do have to speak on this legally. I'm obligated to speak on conversations involving John Lester.
Beliefs.
The direct comparison is against my beliefs, but I'll get to that. The one thing I would say, that we saw from Steele that I think is one of the most important attributes about him, and it does relate to John Lester. When Lester called, I think, Ross and offered the thoughts about where I think he was throwing.
It was like fastball down and in.
Right.
I think it was like
hit him with your fastball, trusted. Go after him.
He listened. He adapted, right? And I think that's one of the most important traits to see in someone making this kind of a jump, right? Are they making changes? Are they listening to ideas for how to get better? Are they willing to change what they're doing to continue getting better? And we've seen that from Steele, right? It's very important. He's not a stubborn guy. He's an extremely hard worker, and he is willing to do what it takes to get better. I think that's very important. As far as the direct comparison, I think he can be that guy where he is reliable and someone you turn to, but maybe not necessarily like their absolute best, like blow them away, as you said, like Cy Young guy every single year. Again, the part I'm like legally obligated to bring up is that it's an extremely high standard, right? For whatever role you envisioned him, when he was with the Cubs, et cetera, because obviously Jake Arrieta was insane in 2015. Kyle Hendricks and John Lester both, I think 2-3 in the Cy Young race in 16, right? So there's a lot like that goes into that, but John Lester has 154 career postseason innings with a 2.51 ERA. My point being
that was just off the top of your head, by the way.
Yes, I have that memorized. It's actually tattooed on my lower thigh. My point being with that is anybody, Justin Steele or otherwise, we should be so lucky that they could be a John Lester in the playoffs. He's quite literally one of the best postseason pitchers we've ever seen, certainly of like this generation. And if anybody wants to get to that level. Like, Kyle Hendricks certainly has a really strong resume in that regard. He's been very good in the playoffs. But it's just something like Steele hasn't had the opportunity to do it. But to get to that level, I mean, we're like, I hope so, right? But we should be so lucky that anybody on the team sniffs what John Lester was in the playoffs. I'll add before, if Cody has any additional thoughts, like, I don't think he would be one of the top two, but you look in 2016, the Cubs used 4 guys. Lackey started some of those games too. He wasn't great in some of those games, but it was important to keep those other guys fresh, right? And you knew he was a veteran that could be relied on to a certain degree.
We saw what happened with Cleveland that year.
Yes, right. Guys get hurt, guys get worn out. And Corey Kluber was great the first 2 times, not the third time. I think they would have been really happy had they had somebody to go instead of him one of those starts, right? But Jameson Taillon, could be, he should be a guy that's in that mix, right? Like the guy he was before this season is a guy you're giving the ball to in the playoffs. Maybe not in a 3-game wild card series, but in these 7-game series of the NLCS, the World Series, he should, if he can't get back to that point where he's even like a Game 4 starter, it's a big problem. And obviously, I'm not saying it's an easy fix. He was terrible for most of the 2023 season, but he has the pedigree and the sort of past history to get there. They do need to find a way to get him into that mix.
I would just say, based off everything you guys have already said, that the one thing that Justin Steele showed this year that reminded me of John Lester the most was that in starts where he just wasn't his best, he found a way to still go 5 or 6. And we saw John Lester do that a lot throughout his tenure with the Cubs. And so, he hasn't got any postseason experience, so I don't know what to expect for that. And I agree with Corey. It's hard to put those kinds of expectations or to compare a guy, because I think John Lester is a borderline Hall of Famer at least.
He's a Hall of Famer.
To me, he goes in. If we're going to let Harold Baines in, John Lester deserves to go in. So I'm optimistic about, him getting better, like I said earlier. So, again, Justin Steele, I think Ryan highlighted a lot all year, man. He was probably the best story for the Cubs all season in terms of the pitching infrastructure, pitching development, all this stuff that they've been shoving down our throats for 5 years, telling us that things were going to get better with that. I mean, he was a 2014 draft pick that experienced a lot of injuries. They started him in the bullpen. He comes out. Once the trade deadline 2021 happens, they let him start some of the second half games, and he had some ups and downs. 2022, rough first half of the season until June, and then he took off, and he's took off since then. And so I don't think there's any reason for anyone to not have any belief that he can at least be what he was this year going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
all right, so A's across the board for John Lester.
It's also it's also one of those things where, just like anything else, and I kind of brought it up when we were talking about Kyle and the Phillies lineup or things like that. It's about how you line things up, right? I think if you go into 2024 needing Steele to be your number one and be that guy who's the only person in the staff you're expecting to possibly be in that Cy Young mix, I don't think that's going to be good enough, right? And that's not a knock on Steele, right? It's all about how you fit these guys into the bigger picture, right? It's easy to compare things to the 2016 team because they won the World Series and they're one of the best teams we've ever seen in baseball in several facets of the game, right? But something that's so important, Kyle Hendricks is your 3 starter.
Yeah.
Jake Arrieta wasn't as good as he was in 2015, and so you're able to start him game 2, right, in the World Series against Cleveland. That's the key, right? Is it needs to be a bigger thing. And right now we have questions on Taillon, even though I think they should be able to fix them to a degree. You have big questions on Marcus Stroman, right? He's been a consistent guy throughout his career, but he was not good before the injury, after the injury, and probably
the
coming
op-
back.
yeah.
We don't even know what's going on there. So you have big questions there. So I think you need somebody else that does not have those questions, that is no, ifs, ands, or buts at a top of the rotation guy. Because if you're looking at Justin Steele as like slated as the 2, but if he could perform as the 1, perfect, right? But if it all lies on him again, right? We saw so many times down the stretch in 2023 where it was basically like, if Justin Steele is not perfect tonight, they're going to lose.
Right. Yeah.
The offense isn't going to score, or the bullpen's going to blow this game, right? You cannot have that again.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point.
But 2025, when you go Shohei, Steele, Tyone, you feel pretty good about it. And then Horton. Kate Horton. Yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Kate Horton and then Tyone.
And hopefully, Jordan Wicks is in the rotation.
That's right. That's right.
We got a RWB team. We see you. We love having you in the chat all the time. We love having you here.
See,
Don't
he's
think we're
trying-
ignoring you, man.
RWB's probably trying to improve that 5-star rating.
He
That's a wise move.
Well,
Anytime you
he's-
say nice things,
He's an OG. He's the
Oh,
he's
yeah.
the one who called you Steve.
that's right.
Yeah,
that's why I
is-
got
yeah,
Steve.
See?
Yeah, so that's why you have the obvious shirt that just says Steve on it.
We always appreciate you.
Steve, Corey, tell us about Sunnyside
Steve.
Cannabis Dispensary.
I can do that, Luke. Sunnyside Cannabis.
Speaking of 5 stars,
10 stars out of 5 for Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your football season. As I always say, whether you are experienced on your cannabis journey or just starting out, Sunnyside's knowledgeable staff can answer any questions you have, help direct you in the right direction for the types of products you want to use, the best way to go about things, what to buy, what not to buy. The Sunnyside staff will help you out. They are friendly, knowledgeable, easy to talk to, and happy to answer any questions. They also have a great transparent loyalty program, and online ordering is easy. You place it, I place it on my phone. The order is ready to be picked up in mere seconds. And of course, I visit the location in Wrigleyville, just steps from beautiful, historic Wrigley Field. Sometimes I would go to, get a donut, Luke, get a coffee. While I'm waiting for the donut, place the order at Sunnyside, walk past beautiful, historic Wrigley Field, head down on Clark Street, boom, at Sunnyside. I'm home, quick, easy, no time at all.
perfect day.
Perfect day.
Those
Perfect
are
day.
good vibes.
Only way it would be better is if the Cubs were playing playoff baseball later that night at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field. But at Sunnyside, you can shop their wonderful house of brands like Good News, gummies, rechargeable vape pens, and carts, perfect for great moments with the crew. Or Cresco, reliably excellent cannabis, consistent quality, experience, and availability of flower, vapes, concentrates, and pre-rolls. Through October 31st, head to sunnyside.shop and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. One use per customer, not stackable with other promotions. That is not only for new customers. Anyone can use our code. That code again, CHGO25. Pick up everything you need to elevate your football season. Must be 21 or older or an Illinois Med card holder.
So this is kind of awkward. I'm wearing a Circus Sports hoodie, but they're our friends with DraftKings. Like, they're both our friends, right?
Like,
So,
coach,
yeah.
like, I don't know what to do here. Like,
cover
anyway.
yourself up.
yeah, like, I love both apps. They're my favorite apps. I roll over and I check the lines for both apps,
And you have 2 phones, so you can do it at the same time,
That's right.
Yeah, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets, and DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game this October. What game? We got Thursday Night Football tomorrow. We got playoff baseball tonight and tomorrow. We got,
Hockey.
we are today. Yeah, we have the Connor Bedard show. I bet everything on Connor Bedard so far. I don't even know anything about hockey, and I've been making money off Connor Bedard.
Give me a
Thanks to
sec.
the Blackhawks guys.
Give me a sec. I'll find the Mizzou line for you guys.
We have
I know you guys care about that.
Today is the 14th straight day of 50 straight days of football. Don't take it for granted, because in June you'll be thinking about it.
Missouri's a 7-point favorite at home. Homecoming against South Carolina on Saturday.
But we have a hard out, so continue.
Hammer it.
We're hammering it. Illinois has their homecoming game this weekend too. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code CHGO. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code CHGO only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available. For gambling problem, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Woo!
Very nice. Hey, if you had to pick a DraftKings player of the week, it's got to be Kyle Schwarber or, Connor Bedard for winning you so much cash. One of the two.
So the Blackhawks guys have been telling me that it's an absolute lock to take the shot, the over on shots on goal, which has been consistently set at 3.5. I think it's hit every game for the Hawks this year. I had taken the over on points the first 2 games, and he got a point first 2 games as well. So,
but his shots on goal specifically,
Cody knows exactly what a point is in hockey.
Yeah.
So
point.
I've learned so much about hockey over the last 2 weeks. I mean, I might as well move to Canada by now or something.
It's not up to me, but I still think it's very funny. Any chance I get to, because my brother is a diehard Anaheim Ducks fan. Corey Perry scored a goal for the Blackhawks in Toronto and pointed, I think, at friends of his. There was a rumor it was like fans, but I think it was friends of his in the stands. And just Corey Perry scoring goals for the Blackhawks. He's always going to be the DraftKings player of the week, as long as he's scoring goals. It's just very funny.
Cody Del Pucko. That's going to be his new nickname.
Also, I saw it was Evil Wax 73 finishing that conversation we were having on Steele. One of that comment he made earlier about Assad and Wicks, where he's like, I love Assad and Wicks, but a rotation of Steele, Stroman, Tyone, Hendricks, Assad, Wicks, obviously they're not all starting. It's great depth, right? But I don't know if that's good enough to get to where this team wants to be. It's not a knock on any of those guys individually, but the depth is good. You throw one top of the rotation guy, and it's not always easy to get those, right? But one more top of the rotation guy.
Want to be in the NLCS next year.
Yeah. And then you would feel great because you do need that depth. We learned this year and really every year, it's not going to be a 1 through 5 thing. You're not going to start the same 5 guys every time. They're not all going to start 32 games or whatever it is. You're going to need the depth. But as far as is that group good enough right now to compete for a championship? I don't think so, right?
All right, we have very little time for Christopher Morel because we went heavy on Steele, which is expected. Let's see our grades, first of all, for Morel. He may get a little extra time on one of the other podcasts, but we're all in the B range, right? I'm the lowest grade at B-. Cody and Corey both went B+. Ryan in the middle at B. Here's the only stat I want to share with you that I found that I thought was cool. Only 4 players in baseball hit 25 or more home runs with less than 400 at-bats. One of them, of course, is Christopher Morel, 26 home runs and 388 at-bats. The guy that hit the most with less than 400 at-bats, Aaron Judge, 37 home runs, played 1 less game than Morel did and had 367 at-bats, so even fewer at-bats. Well, okay, it's Aaron Judge. But the other 2 are Jose Siri of the Rays and Francisco Alvarez of the Mets. He has undeniable power. The reason I went B- is one of the things we wanted to see from Morel. We know he has the power. We know it's there, right? Mm-hmm. We want to see slightly more consistent at bats because we've just talked about Schwarber. An imperfect hitter can still be very valuable to a team. But I would like to, because he is so athletic, I want to see Morel get the everyday position that Jed Hoyer has kind of set as the bar for him now and said, we got to find him a spot. I want to see him to do the Madrigal program and earn a spot as the everyday third baseman. I think it's the only way I personally believe it's the only way he's going to stick with the Cubs.
Yeah, I look at it, and I was a B, so I was right around your range, and he improved in many areas offensively, whether it was in some ways like slugging percentage or isolated power, like he improved a lot, or strikeout rate. He improved a little bit, was 32.2% last year, down to 31. So slight improvement, but still like it's still pretty high, right?
Right.
He improved in most areas, at least a little bit offensively. But as you're saying, like defensively, he does not have a home, has not proven he really has one on this team, because I think he looked best at second base, and that's locked up for the next 3 years.
And they don't like him at third base. They're saying that's the obvious spot, but they clearly don't like him. So,
so that would be, if you're looking at it right now, because we've seen him in the outfield and he just doesn't look comfortable out there. Like third base, especially with the arm. The arm is like great. You look at it, it rates very highly across baseball, just as far as arm strength goes. If he can figure out third base and just be a consistent defender there, that's a great spot for him. That's what we want. Like you said, we wanted to see that this year. We didn't see it. I can't give him more than a B, because we just didn't. While the offense was really good for majority of the season, he had his ups and downs too, and that's what you're going to get with him as a hitter. Just the fact that we didn't see any defensive improvement in areas that you needed that we wanted to see it from him. I think that's what knocked him down for me.
Yeah.
Morel, the hitter's at least a B.
Yeah, I mean, so I think in Rick DeHouse in our chat is kind of saying what I was going to say, is like, we don't know how much of his fielding is because of him or the organization, right? Because as Rick DeHouse pointed out, he went down to AAA and they never played him there, right? Like, we saw the concerted effort that Nick Madrigal made.
But where did he get better in the offseason?
Well, sure. So that's the thing. That's where it's like there's part of this that we don't know, right? Like, was he not given more of an opportunity because he just didn't make improvements and they just genuinely don't believe he can get the throws down or be consistent enough? Or did they just not give him, they felt like he was better served doing other stuff? So that's where it's like, I think the grades are going to vary because we just don't know. It depends who you want to place that blame, if we'll call it blame, right? Like, he didn't get that shot. Like, we saw Nick Madrigal get that concerted time and effort, and again, to his credit, he did it and came through and rated very well as a defensive third baseman, even if he can't hit. That was for you, Ryan. With Morel, we don't know why he didn't really get that much of a chance, but he didn't, right? We did not see him in Iowa playing third base every day. We didn't see him in spring training playing third base relentlessly and taking those things. But I gave him a B+ because as a 24-year-old, right, who had 425 plate appearances in 2022, he came in and, again, in a very inconsistent role, right? He's up, he's down, he's DHing. Sometimes he was occasionally asked to play the field, things like that. He's sitting for 5 days at a time. Sometimes he's leading off. Sometimes he's hitting ninth. You know, he had a solid offensive season, 119 WRC plus. I think at times he's an inconsistent hitter. He showed some better patience toward the end of the year. He had some really nice plate appearances where he was taking 7, 8, 9 pitches and walking a little more. Walk rate about the same, K rate, 1% lower, right? So you'd like to have seen more improvement there, but I think for a 24-year-old doing what they asked him to do, I think he had a really nice season. Would like to see some more improvements on the discipline, the strikeouts, thing like that. But I think he has a lot of room for growth to get to where he really wants to and needs to be as a player.
On both sides.
You'd like for him to find a position. He's too athletic to not find a position. But is that his fault or the organization's fault? I don't know.
All right, we got 2 minutes left, Cody. Take it away.
So I think the way that I look at it, I gave him a B+ like Corey because, again, Christopher Morel wasn't some highly touted prospect. He literally, like, no one knew who this guy was until May 17th, 2022. All right. And he made significant improvements this year compared to 2022. 2022, 16 homers. This year, 26. Yeah, his walk rate was about the same, 8.9 last year, 8.4 this year, 32% K rate last year, 31. So those two things are pretty much the same. Batting average, 235 last year, 247 this year. 308 on base last year, 313 this year, 508 slug this year, 433 last year. So pretty much the same. Slugged a little bit more, obviously had more homers. Weight runs created plus 108 last year, 119 this year. His Fangraphs WAR last year, 1.6, 1.4 this year. So yeah, there were improvements in certain parts, and then some parts were still the same. The way that I look at it, and this is only because everyone loves to do this, everyone loves to compare this guy to Javi Baez. Everyone loves to compare just based off the vibes and the energy that he brings, and it's all very similar to Javi Baez. The only thing that he hasn't done that Javi Baez does is play defense elite on the infield somewhere. Well, I do think he showed that he can play second base, but unfortunately there's just not a spot for them there with Nico Horner here, right? So when I did this a few weeks ago, I looked up Javi Baez's numbers, like the first season where he was a full-time player, which was 2017. All right. In 2017, in 508 play appearances, so that's every play appearance, not just quote-unquote at bats. 23 homers, 5.9 walk rate, 28.3% K rate, 273, 317, 480 slash line with a 98 weighted runs created plus and a 2.9 F4. Now the 2.9 F4 is probably because of the defense. Obviously it was like, he hit 23 homers. He was a very solid second baseman for the Cubs in 2017. I just look at those numbers and I'm like, Christopher Morel in certain aspects was way better than Javi Baez that year before, like the year before he won or was the National League runner-up for MVP. His weighted runs created plus was higher this year, and he hit more homers. He has a higher walk rate. Okay, the strikeout rate's 2% higher or 3% higher than Javi Baez in 2017. I think the reason people compare him to Javi Baez is because he strikes out 30% of the time, just like Javi Baez did at the end of his entire tenure with the Cubs. All I'm saying is given the age and everything, I personally believe that Christopher Morel has the ceiling in some aspect to at least be a hitter of that reaches what Javi Baez was in 2018 eventually. I'm not saying that he is now, but there's a lot to like there. And for a 24-year-old who wasn't a highly touted prospect like Javi Baez was, I can't like Collada, he was like yelling at us, like he said C+, and I'm like, we're talking about a player who was not on the radar for anyone. We're talking about a player who wasn't on the radar for anyone. Coming into this year, we didn't really know what to expect. We were kind of down on him coming into this year because he struggled so much in August and September of last year. So he significantly improved. I know, we got to end the show.
Yes, we got to end.
We're 2 minutes past our heart out.
I just wanted to put that out there. Like when you look at it from in the grand scheme, he in some aspects, he surpassed any kind of expectation we had for him this year, just like Justin Steele. Again, we're doing like as an individual grade. Yes, there's a lot of things to improve upon, but you could also use him as a reason that the Cubs were even in the playoff chase going into September.
So you went B+. I'm changing mine to a B because he walked off the White Sox. Make sure you get fitted out with the best sports gear around: hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. Don't forget the Aloha shirts, straw, hats, polos, bags, everything you need for a game. And, oh, wow, our set decorations. What can I say? Oh, yeah. Check out Foco.com. Click the link in the description below for all non-presale items. Use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Thanks to Cody, Corey, Ryan, and everybody in the live chat today. Yes, Barb, we are back 120 live tomorrow where we will grade more people and maybe the first ever grade for somebody in the live YouTube chat. Who will it be?
I'm sorry that we went over.
Uh-oh.
It's okay. The Blackhawks guys are still in a meeting.
I'm not.
But Lawrence is getting very nervous over there.
You should just say it. What were you going to say?
What were you going to say? You want 10 seconds?
No, I was just going to add, like, Morel's 24. He's not even ARB eligible until 2026. Like, the value you're getting out of him is amazing. I would like to, and, Brendan has expressed this a lot, like, it didn't seem like they treated that third base position with, like, the urgency that they should have outside of giving Madrigal the opportunity. So whether that's because they just truly don't believe he can do it or some other reason, but, like, yeah, I mean, like, I think he can do it somewhere.
But our grades reflect that we all gave him Bs. We didn't all go to Michigan, Corey. I'll take a B any day of the week.
You all couldn't.
Come on.
You all couldn't get in, so I know
that's
that.
right.
Oh, I would have got it.
I went to the Harvard.
Well, I didn't apply. I didn't want to go to the state of Michigan.
I didn't want to go to Michigan either.
Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Back live at 1:20 tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.